Friends. They could be a blessing or a curse, a source of motivation or the people that bring you down. The people you can talk to heal your heart or the people that give you the scars. There's this expression that I heard years ago that I agree with. If you surround yourself by 3 idiots, then you will become the 4th idiot.
I'm skipping to my loo, Eddie. Giddy up.
And choosing our friends wisely is very important because they influence us, whether we know it or not. And in my personal opinion, you could tell a lot about someone and their mental health based on the people that they surround themselves with. Basically, friendships are extremely important, but not just any friendships, healthy, deep friendships, friendships that help one another grow, people who when you're with, you get like positive energy and you feel better, people who are not jealous of your success. And most importantly, I think the most important thing that you need in any relationship ever is respect. But aside from the super
deep friendship,
there are other important friendships like activity-based friendships. That's like how I categorize like maybe a coworker, right? Outside of work, you don't really talk and communicate and you sort of respect one another in that space. That includes friends that you make during certain hobbies. Like maybe you don't have deep conversations together, but you really enjoy working out together. You really enjoy playing a sport together. And those friendships are okay too and are very needed, I think. What's a big blessing is when you have those people who you have those deep relationships with, but also you share the same hobbies with. But I do think it is important to have both types of friend. I think what's really sad is if you only have those hobby friends and you don't have people who you can really connect with on a deeper level. One thing that I've noticed from having been in Korea for 12 years now is that it seems like in Korea it's very easy to make those activity-based or like hobby friends who you just hang out and have fun with. But I think it's so much harder to find those friends you can have deep, intimate conversations and connections with. Hello, friends and family. This is Megan Moon, aka 저는 미국 사람. So today we're going to be talking about friendships and how it can be very hard to make deep, meaningful friendships here. Let's get right into it, starting with the first point, which is just people have a big fear of opening up. So I do want to have a disclaimer that this is not everyone and not every single encounter, but situations that have arisen a lot in my experience here and that I've heard lots of other Korean people talk about. I just want to share some things that could be obstacles for you getting friends in Korea. If you watched my video that I did on depression, one of the things that I learned was that a lot of people in Korea, when they grew up, like the previous generation born right after Korean War, you know, it's a very like anxious time. So a lot of the children who are now like my husband's age, they sort of grew up in families where they weren't allowed to express themselves. And if they opened up and told their parents something that was bothering them or something that was difficult, the parents are kind of like, what do you mean difficult? My life is difficult. Like your life is difficult. Like I'm raising you. So a lot of people never really got that emotional comfort and emotional support from their parents. And a lot of people feel very scared to do so because when you're growing up and your parents sort of would get mad, like if you would share something like that, then in adulthood, obviously you're going to be afraid to do so. And it's really sad because one of the biggest reasons for people's depression that I found out when I was doing my research is just that there's a lack of connection, right? They don't feel like they have anybody that they can open up with and receive comfort from. So there are some people who, even if they want to do that, they don't really know how or they feel really weird doing it. So a lot of people just keep their thoughts to themselves. And that also applies to if you're doing something that bothers somebody. A lot of people don't really speak up initially about it. But then when they get to their breaking point, they will explode in anger and just like yell at you about something that you had no idea was bothering them in the first place. That's sort of where we get that whole like Koreans being so angry. It's just because they're very repressed emotionally. That was what I learned from one of the popular psychology shows that I watched. The person was sort of saying like people gotta let out little by little the things that they need to say, but some people don't and they try and hold it in for as long as possible. But then obviously we're humans with emotions, so you can't really hold stuff in that long. Like eventually it's gonna come out, right? It has to come out. So people will either explode on you and tell it to you, or sometimes just like not contact you and ghost the hell out of you and leave you wondering like, where'd they go? So there are many cases I've experienced it. I've had a lot of Korean people also like talk to me and complain about this. And that's if you do have a friend and let's say you start out as activity friends, like most people do, you're doing a certain activity together or you're in the same class, you're at the same gym and you guys talk and hang out. If you go in and try and talk about something deep, sometimes people will like get angry. Why are you sharing this with me? I got my own stuff I'm dealing with. There are some instances where people will get mad and not be receptive to you actually sharing, because it seems like a lot of people haven't experienced that whole I have an issue and I'm uncomfortable, so I'm going to talk to you and tell you about it. And then you console me, give me a pat on the back, and then you share your stuff, and then I console you, give you a pat on the back. Our relationship has gotten deeper, and now we feel better about whatever crap we're dealing with. A lot of people tend to deal with their own stuff in their own mind as opposed to let it out too. So if you do notice that you have a friend or somebody who you're trying to deepen your relationship with, they seem like something's on their mind, if you just keep asking them, you got to really reassure the hell out of them. And then finally, you know, they will open up and they'll share some stuff with you. But it's not very easy to find people who are super open here. Whereas in America, there's so many people I've met who are, you know, we get to talking. I think we value those like deep conversation and deep relationships a lot more. At least it was like that back in my day when I was here. I hear the young people now, because they're stuck on their smartphones and stuff, are like lacking deep relationships too. But basically, it's much harder to find people here that you can rely on emotionally and get that emotional support. Wow, my southernness came out. Get that emotional support from. So the next thing that could make it hard to build deep friendships in Korea is just boundary pushing. This was something that I kind of realized, but not really until I saw this YouTuber's video. There's this YouTuber that I started watching recently. His name is Kamsong Teddy Dennis. And recently I find myself watching a bunch of like Korean YouTubers. You know, I'm here in Korean society and I'm raising 2 children. So I just want to know more about people and how they think. Certain aspects of it that are not good or positive or healthy for your mental health, I can sort of keep Luna and Ruben from falling into that. A couple weeks ago, I was recommended this YouTuber, and he actually lived in America for 8 years, but he made a video and it was titled 미국에 살면서 느꼈던 한국인들의 단점 4가지. The 4 things that I think are not good about Korean people after having lived in America. And I was like, ooh, click, watched immediately. But the first thing that he said he thinks Korean people need to work on is 선 넘는 참견. And that just means like crossing boundaries, over interference in other people's life. Sometimes I struggle to like translate stuff. Over interference in people's lives to the point of crossing boundaries. There we go. Nailed it. And so he brought up a really good point, which is something that I was feeling but could never really put a finger on. And that is, in Korea, when you first meet people, they seem very, very polite. They're going to make sure they speak to you using the formal language. They're going to be like on their P's and Q's. But then like as you get to know them or they think that you're close, then suddenly that just sort of drops. And a lot of boundaries can be crossed sometimes. And it happens even if you didn't ask them for it. You know, like on some lighter things, like talking about your weight, that you gained weight and all this and that. Why you don't got a boyfriend? Where your boyfriend at? Why you not married? Why you ain't got no baby? And one thing that I've noticed too, I've had this situation happen where I had someone, we sort of started getting to know each other, and then suddenly they started crossing boundaries, it felt like, with me. So I was like, hey, you know, I don't like this particular thing, you know, please don't do that. And then the person sort of got or would get mad. And so it was something that I've experienced a couple times and sort of heard other people talking about as well. But I think a lot of people here think that having boundaries means that you don't like them. Because if we were close, then you wouldn't have this boundary. I should just be able to do whatever I want to do to you or with you. What I'm used to in America and what they felt when they lived and visited America for a while is that the deeper your relationship gets, the more you respect one another, the more you're careful not to cross boundaries. We're talking about with 2 healthy people, of course. So it's like, this is a person that I love and care for, so I'm going to make sure that I don't do these things that cross their boundaries or make them feel unloved or disrespected, etc. And just in general, I feel like there's more respect amongst us, whereas you would think it was the opposite. And I think a lot of foreign people, when you first come to Korea, because you're new and you're just meeting people, everybody's going to be so polite. And you think, wow, these people are just so polite. But when you've been here and you really get to know people, especially if you speak the language, I think if you don't speak Korean and you only hang out with people who have lived abroad, then you won't have that experience. Which brings me to the next one. They're sort of kind of related, but not really. The next thing that makes it hard to have deep, meaningful friendships sometimes is just that Korea society is still hierarchy-based. So nowadays, it seems like that hierarchy is really based on who makes, money or not, or who has a family who makes the most money, or who's in a higher position, etc. And so what it does is it sort of imbalances the respect. This is something that Dennis talks about in his video too, something that he said he appreciated about America is like, doesn't matter if you didn't finish college or you didn't do whatever, like everybody treats people respectfully. You're a respectful human being who deserves respect, as am I. Whereas he said his experience like in Korea is like if somebody is higher above you, then they sort of use that to, get you to do what they want or whatever, or there's a lack of respect and a lack of genuine relationships in that case. For example, like when I was growing up, we went to some building and there was like a janitor or somebody there. My dad would always greet the janitors. So I've picked up that habit too. So it's actually funny because in the building at my gym, the cleaning lady is always there when I go to the gym in the morning at 7 a.m. And I always like talk to her and like smile with her and like say good morning to her. But then like nobody else does. It's like, oh, you're a cleaning lady? Yeah, just stay in your place. So I'm used to everyone being equal. Like, what makes you more important than me just because you're from a family that's more rich or whatever? And that really does interfere with certain relationships because, like, let's say somebody comes from a richer family than someone else. If you want to be friends with that person, then it's like, it's uneven. It's not like mutual give and take. It's like, oh, I have to do more to get this person to be my friend because they're above me because they have money. And I've heard so many stories of people who come from like Southeast Asia, come to Korea and then meet Korean people. And then they tell them that they're from, Vietnam or Philippines, a country like that they kind of look down on because they make, less money or are not as cool and rich as Korea, then they sort of can look down on those people. So in a lot of cases, if you're looking for friends here, they literally have to be on your same or equal level. And I think that's what causes a lot of people to become also so materialistic and want to have those expensive things that other people's have. It's like, oh, if I want to be with these people who have X, Y, and Z, then I need to show that I have X, Y, and Z too. Like we have to be on equal playing field. Or people can look down on people if they appear to not have as much money or have something, cheaper or whatever. And also included in that hierarchy is age. Like when you meet people, the first thing they're going to do is scramble to figure out who's the top dog in the group, who is the oldest, or if you're in a position at a job, like who has the highest position. We need to know so we can figure out how much respect we need to give to each person. And so sometimes it takes away from the genuineness of the relationship too. It's like, oh, this person, because they have more than me or higher than me, I have to treat them this way, even though I may not feel like it and I'm not getting any mutual respect from them. But people who are older than you have to speak in the formal language with, and they get to decide when you stop using that formal language. And depending on how much older they are than you, it might be virtually impossible to even have a friendship with them. And that was something that was so sad to me because in America, I always had older people who I was friends with who were kind of like mentors to me. Like in college, I had two, Christine Boyle and Tony Lagata. They were like these older, like 50s housewives. And I don't know, we just got along really well. And so they would give me advice about life and stuff like that. And there was a big mutual respect. And those are two relationships that I still remember to this day, really enriched my life so much. And they taught me so much and helped me to grow and mature so much. But in Korea, I find it harder to have those kind of relationships. If you are someone like me who likes to always have older friends who you could sort of go to and ask about life experiences, etc., it's really hard here because there's so much extra respect that you have to put on that person. And they often don't respect you back or listen to what you have to say. And so I've just sort of given up on having any type of older mentor. But basically, it's best to find people who are your same age or maybe like 1 or 2 years older. The younger people, like if you're a young 20-something and you're coming into Korea now, it shouldn't be that big of an issue for you. But if you're someone like me in my age range still, people are very like stuck on that, who's older, who's younger, and you have to respect them more than they respect you. It's very difficult. So the last reason why it could be hard to make deep, meaningful friends in Korea is something that actually I learned from Dennis's video also. I was like, oh, that is true. It was like something that I've experienced and that I know, but just I was never able to put a finger on. And that is, in his video, he said, 부탁을 거절하면 불쾌해한다. If somebody asks you for a favor and then you say no, like people feel really uncomfortable with that. And in that section, he talks about a lot of things. But he starts off by talking about how when you refuse someone's favor, a lot of people will sort of get mad. But then at the same time, if you ask a favor to someone else, they feel such a big pressure to do the favor. And I've sort of experienced that a lot of times, a lot of people think if you ask them for a favor, they have to do the favor in order to keep the relationship going. But a lot of people, they really want to do the favor for you because they want to be favorable in your eyes. So especially if you're a foreign person or a Western person from America, we will typically do favors when we make sure we've taken care of ourselves first. So for example, let's say I'm having a bad day, I'm in a bad mental place, and I've got a lot on my plate, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and someone asks me for a favor, I'm going to have to say no because I don't want to keep overextending myself. Even though we might really want to help someone, if we're not in the mental space to do so, then we don't. But here, a lot of people, they could be totally ran ragged, and then you ask them for a favor and they feel like they have to do it anyway. So on the reverse side, if they ask you for a favor and then you can't do it, they get mad because a lot of people have sort of been like, well, I've done these favors for you. Like, why you don't do this for me? In a relationship, when you don't have that open communication and everything is just based on, okay, I do for you, you do for me, I do for you, you do for me, but nobody's actually saying what their needs are. A lot of people here are running on like fumes. True giving, I think about like this. Like, let's say you have a cup full of water. Like, true giving is you make sure that you've taken care of yourself, and then the overflow you give to other people. So basically, make sure that your life is in check, and then you will naturally have overflow to other people because you'll naturally be like a happier person. But it seems like a lot of people in Korea, their cup is empty. In an attempt to get water from other people, they like pour the little tiny water they have into someone else, just hoping that someone will pour some water so that their cup can fill up. So I think that's why like so many people, like if they do ask for a favor and then you don't do it, they sort of get mad. But it's interesting because I noticed that in places where people don't often speak up about what they want or share their insides in order to have deep relationships, they try and do that by just doing stuff for each other instead of like actually just talking and having the deep conversation. So I say all that to say, I think the biggest reasons why it's difficult to form deeper relationships in Korea is just because of the general lack of respect between people and a lack of transparency and people sort of speaking up for their needs and wants and being able to have that open communication. Yes. Anyway, I'm sure there are other ones. Just for this video, this is what I was able to think of. If you are a foreign person or a Korean person and you're here in Korea and you have something you want to add, let us know down below. I love seeing you guys' comments and discourse that happen on these videos that I've been making about these deeper topics. Also, if there's things that you want to share, you can try and DM me on Instagram, or if there's topics that you want me to talk about, just let me know down below because I would love to talk about them with you. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video and you'd like to see more videos, please subscribe to my YouTube page, which is down below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, like me on Facebook, and I will see ya.